When I looked at track and field athletes in every race from 100 meters to 10,000 meters, and I looked at the top 8 finishers in every age group in every race, that we do not significantly slow down until we're past 70. So between 50 and 70, the guy who won the 1 mile race finished it in 4 minutes and 34 seconds. The same year of the study, the kid that won the high school mile race did it in 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The 70-year-old who won the 1 mile race did it in a little less than 7 minutes. It just shows you that if we're slowing down dramatically before our 70s, we've either decided not to train so hard, we're just not trying anymore. We've been terribly injured, right? And we can't. But it's not because of biology.
Because of psychology.
Exactly. No light bulb goes off.
We think that when we experience that first twinge, that first pain, we start to get a little bit tired. We think it's natural, so we kind of relent to it. We just give in. And then that's that slow spiral downwards into a lifestyle which becomes self-fulfilling, I guess.
We stop trying hard. We stop playing hard because we stop trying hard.
Because we think it's inevitable. We think, no.
Aging is inevitable. How we age is up to us.
You're working on a book, aren't you? You've just handed in the manuscript for it. We're very, very excited about this book.
Yes.
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable, go strong, live long, age with power. And it really picks up the conversation of aging and longevity that I've been talking about for a long time, but really focuses on the longevity of women. So the book is framed around the pillars of aging, which I call time bombs. The time bomb of metabolic dysfunction, the time bomb that we think means our DNA is our destiny, which it is not. We can modify ourselves, and several others, and really explain the science of what's going on, and that aging is not an inevitable decline from vitality to frailty unless we cop to that attitude, right? And then the second part of the book lays out a lifestyle that I call unbreakable. It's about muscle, it's a bone, it's about nutrition, but a very important part is what you just said. It's about attitude and mindset. And so I help people set standards and goals for what they want based on their values. If I didn't value independence, if I didn't value having my brain till the very end and all the other things that I value, then my goals would be uninformed. I could say, oh, I want to run a marathon at 80, but that's not enough unless it's connected to my values. And then further along, we talk about building resilience, because brain resilience can be built in the same way that skeletal resilience can. And I believe it takes both of those things to progress and to age with power. And then the final sections of this book really take us to the next level. How do we, now that we've optimized our health and decided that we are not the victims of time? I don't believe that. I believe we can shape our future. What do we do for peak performance? How do we continue to squeeze performance out? And what are the cool technologies that can help us?
I'm very, very excited.
Yay.
Can we pre-order it yet?
Not yet, but you can get on my wait list on my website.
Okay, I'll link that below for anyone that's keen to get that book. I'll be on that list as well.
I'll give you one.
Is there anything else that we should have talked about that we haven't, Dr. Vonda?
Last week, I was speaking at the American Diabetes Association and talking about midlife and menopause, which you and I have talked about, and all the metabolic changes that go on when estrogen walks out the door. And we've already talked today about prediabetes and how we need to put on a big alarm because of all the metabolic changes that will lead to diabetes and Alzheimer's. But when I look at those two things separately, perimenopause and all the metabolic changes and the lipid changes and the fat distribution and the insulin insensitivity, and prediabetes, they are nearly identical. And what we know is that this is another alarm to sound. If we have not paid attention in the critical decade of our lives and become pre-diabetic and then are a woman and lose our estrogen, it compounds the normal metabolic changes that happen with insulin resistance to the loss of estrogen. And after menopause, women have more diabetes and therefore more Alzheimer's. And so if I can back all this up and start people thinking about it when we're 35, that is work worth doing.
That's exactly what you're doing. It's exactly what you're doing. I think, The reason I'm so compelled by menopause as well, a secondary reason, is because I have so many wonderful women in my life, including my partner, who might not be as fortunate to be exposed to all the information that I get exposed to by doing this. So many of the questions I'm asking you are almost pre-preparing me to be a supporting act in her life. She's 32 now, so critical years.
You know what, Stephen, if I could get more men to take the attitude that you've just expressed, to have the curiosity to learn about the changes in midlife women, and not only bodily changes, but attitudinal and the sexuality changes, I think we could save a lot of marriages. But I find that there is, for the lack of knowledge there is amongst the women, there is even less knowledge among the men. But if it's a partnership, so I think your attitude and curiosity is laudable, because I think we could save a lot of relationships if everyone felt that way.
Yeah, because for me, it has created a ton of empathy. And with empathy, you approach challenges differently with a different perspective. And there's less blame and there's more, I think, supporting encouragement. So that's really why I think it's so important as well for men to understand these things, because when you start noticing differences maybe in someone, in ways she's feeling, or your mother or grandmother, or even your daughters, you might not be some of those naive doctors who think someone's losing their mind, or that they're just being different, or it's their personality, and you might understand that there's something deeper going on, and also something that's, at least in part, you can do something about.
Absolutely.
Which I think is the most important conclusive point. We have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest leaves a question for the next guest, with not knowing who they're leaving it for. And the question left for you is, how do you know when is enough?
I think how you know when it's enough, when it becomes, if it pertains to work or striving for something, or is when you don't love it anymore. When it becomes a grind and you don't love it, that's when it's enough, because it's not feeding you.
Amen.